The massive ship moved slowly through the darkness of space, its hull gleaming under the light of distant stars. Terra's Dawn was humanity's greatest creation, a floating city that carried 50,000 people toward their new home. Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge, watching the stars drift past the wide windows. He had been making this journey for 12 years, and finally their destination was close. "Captain, we should reach the Kepler system in 3 days," said Lisa Brooks, his chief engineer. She was a small woman with grease-stained hands who knew every bolt and wire in the ship. "The engines are running perfectly," Jake smiled. "Good work, Lisa. How are our people doing?" "Happy, sir. The children are excited about seeing a real sun again. The farmers can't wait to plant crops in real soil instead of these metal boxes." Jake nodded. The ship was amazing, but it was still just a machine. Everyone dreamed of walking on solid ground under an open sky. They had left Earth when it became too crowded, seeking a new world where their children could grow up with room to breathe. Ryan Clark, the security chief, entered the bridge. He was a big man who rarely smiled, but today he looked relaxed. "Captain, the morning shift reports everything normal. No problems in any sector." "Thank you, Ryan. Any word from our scouts?" "The probe ships reached Kepler 442b yesterday. The reports are even better than we hoped. Clean air, fresh water, and no dangerous animals. It's perfect for us." Jake felt a weight lift from his shoulders. 12 years of travel, 12 years of keeping 50,000 people alive in the cold emptiness of space, and it had all been worth it. Their new home was waiting. Dr. Katie Walsh, the ship's chief medical officer, joined them. She was young but skilled, and everyone trusted her with their health. "Captain, I wanted to report that our people are in excellent condition for landing. The children especially are strong and healthy. That's wonderful news. Katie, we'll need everyone at their best when we start building our new cities." The bridge crew worked quietly, checking systems and preparing for their arrival. Jake watched them with pride. These people had become like family during the long journey. They had faced problems together, celebrated births, mourned deaths, and never lost hope. Suddenly, the ship's computer made a soft sound. "Captain," called out the communications officer, "I'm detecting ships approaching our position." Jake's stomach tightened. They were far from Earth, far from any known human ships. "How many ships?" "7 vessels, sir. They're not human designs. They're alien ships." The bridge fell silent. Everyone knew this moment might come, but now that it was here, nobody knew what to say. Jake took a deep breath. This was what they had trained for. Open a channel, let's say hello. The main screen flickered and an alien face appeared. The creature had blue skin and large golden eyes. When it spoke, the computer translated its words into English. "Greetings, unknown vessels. I am High Commander Veltar of the Zephyrian Collective. You have entered our space." Jake stepped forward. "Commander Veltar, I am Captain Jake Morrison of the human ship Terra's Dawn. We are peaceful explorers seeking a new home. We mean no harm to anyone." The alien studied him with those strange golden eyes. "Humans. We have heard stories of your kind but never met you. You are far from your home world. Yes, we've traveled 12 years to reach this system. We hope to settle on the 4th planet. That world belongs to the Collective, but perhaps we can discuss this. Would you welcome us aboard your ship? We are curious about your people." Jake felt hope rise in his chest. Maybe this would work out after all. "Of course, Commander. We would be honored to meet you." The next few days were exciting. The alien ships docked with Terra's Dawn, and strange beings walked through human corridors. The Zephyrians were tall and thin with blue skin. Their allies, the Kethvar, looked like giant insects with 4 arms. The Silmani were small and moved very fast. The aliens seemed amazed by human music, art, and stories. They spent hours watching children play and listening to people laugh. Jake began to think they had never seen emotions like joy and love before. "Your people are very interesting," Veltar told Jake during one of their meetings. "We have studied many species, but humans are different. You feel things very strongly." "We do," Jake agreed. "Our feelings make us who we are. They help us create beautiful things and care for each other." "Yes, we have observed this. Tell me, Captain, what would your people do if someone threatened your children?" The question seemed strange, but Jake answered honestly. "We would protect them. Any parent would die before letting harm come to their child, even if the enemy was much stronger than you. Especially then. Human parents don't calculate odds when their children are in danger. They just fight, Veltar nodded slowly. This is what we expected. Something in the alien's voice made Jake uncomfortable, but before he could ask what he meant, Veltar changed the subject. The cultural exchange continued for several days. Humans shared their food, their music, and their stories. The aliens recorded everything, asking detailed questions about human families, emotions, and values. On the 5th day, the aliens called for a formal meeting. Jake gathered his senior officers in the main conference room. Veltar and his advisors sat across the table, their golden eyes unreadable. Captain Morrison, Veltar began, we have learned much about your species. You are indeed unique. However, the collective has rules about new species entering our territory. What kind of rules? Jake asked. You must abandon your colonization plans, return to your home world, or choose another destination outside collective space. If you insist on remaining, you must accept our authority and live according to our laws. Jake felt his heart sink. Commander, we've traveled 12 years to get here. We can't just turn around and go home. Surely we can share this system. Space is big enough for everyone. The collective does not share, Captain. We have maintained order in this region for thousands of years. Species that refuse our guidance become problems. What if we refuse? Ryan Clark asked, his voice hard. Veltar's expression didn't change. Then you will learn why the collective has survived so long. We strongly advise you to accept our terms. Jake looked at his officers. He saw anger in Ryan's eyes, fear in Katie's face, and determination in Lisa's jaw. These people had given up everything for this dream. How could he ask them to surrender now? Commander, we need time to consider your offer. Of course. We will return to our ships and await your decision. But do not take too long, Captain. The collective values efficiency. As the aliens left, Jake felt a cold fear growing in his stomach. Something about Veltar's words sounded less like negotiation and more like a threat. He looked out at the beautiful planet that was supposed to be their new home, and wondered if they would ever see its surface. Jake Morrison stood in his private quarters staring at the planet they had traveled so far to reach. Through his window, Kepler 442b looked like a blue and green jewel against the black of space. It was everything they had hoped for, everything their children deserved. He couldn't give up now. The decision had been unanimous among his senior staff. They would politely refuse the collective's demands. Humans had traveled too far and sacrificed too much to surrender their dream now. Jake activated the communication system to send their answer to Veltar. Commander, we appreciate your position, but we cannot abandon our colonization plans. We've spent 12 years reaching this system. Our people have already suffered enough. We're willing to share space and resources, but we won't submit to your authority. Veltar's face appeared on the screen, those golden eyes showing no emotion. Captain Morrison, this is disappointing but not unexpected. Your species appears to value sentiment over wisdom. Very well, we will withdraw to consider our response. The alien ships pulled away from Terra's dawn, moving to a safe distance. Jake felt relieved. Maybe they just needed time to think. Maybe they would realize that humans posed no threat to their empire. Lisa Brooks called from the engine room. Captain, I'm seeing some strange energy readings from those alien ships. They might be charging weapons. Jake's blood went cold. Red alert. All hands to battle stations. This is not a drill. Alarms rang throughout the ship as 50,000 people rushed to emergency positions. Parents grabbed their children. Elderly people moved to reinforced areas, and the few security personnel prepared their limited weapons. Terra's dawn had never been built for war. Ryan Clark's voice crackled over the intercom. Captain, we've got incoming ships. They're moving fast. The attack came without warning. Bright blue energy beams tore through Terra's dawn's hull like paper. The ship shuddered and groaned as atmosphere rushed out of the breaches. Emergency bulkheads slammed shut, but not fast enough to save everyone. Jake ran toward the bridge, but an explosion knocked him to the floor. The corridor filled with smoke and the screams of injured people. Through the chaos, he heard the sound he had dreaded most, the cries of children. The aliens had targeted the family sectors first. Lisa Brooks was already in the engine room when the first blast hit the power core. Sparks flew from damaged consoles as she worked frantically to keep the lights on. 2 Zephyrian soldiers appeared behind her, their weapons raised. Please, she said, not turning around. There are children on this ship. Innocent people. The aliens fired without hesitation. Lisa fell forward over her controls, her blood mixing with the sparks from the broken machines. but her sacrifice bought precious seconds. The backup power systems activated, keeping life support running in the undamaged sections. Ryan Clark led 20 security guards in a desperate defense of the civilian areas. They had small handguns against alien energy weapons, but they fought anyway. Every second they held the corridors meant more families could reach the emergency shelters. "Fall back to Section 7, Ryan shouted as another of his people fell. "Protect the evacuation routes." A squad of insect-like HFY soldiers rushed around the corner, their forearms carrying different weapons. Ryan and his remaining guards opened fire, but their bullets barely scratched the aliens' armor. The HFY moved forward methodically, killing everything in their path. Ryan made his last stand at the entrance to a school. Behind him, teachers were leading terrified children toward the emergency pods. He had to buy them time. "You want to get to those kids, you go through me," he said, raising his gun. The aliens didn't bother to answer. They simply killed him and moved on. Dr. Katie Walsh worked in the medical bay, treating people as fast as they arrived. Burns, broken bones, and worse injuries filled every bed. She barely looked up when the doors burst open, thinking it was more wounded humans. Instead, 3 Silmani soldiers entered, moving with liquid speed. Katie saw them and stepped in front of her patients. "I'm a doctor," she said. "These people are hurt." "They can't fight you?" The Silmani leader tilted its head. "That is why this will be efficient." They killed everyone in the medical bay, including Katie. Her last act was to shield a wounded child with her own body. Throughout the ship, the massacre continued with horrible efficiency. The aliens didn't take prisoners or show mercy. They killed systematically, starting with the weakest and most defenseless. Old people died in their beds. Children died in their classrooms. Families died trying to protect each other. Jake Morrison fought his way through damaged corridors toward the bridge. Bodies lay everywhere. People he had known for years. Friends who had trusted him to bring them safely to their new home. The smell of burning metal and worse things filled the air. He reached the communications center just as another explosion rocked the ship. The quantum transmitter was still working, barely. Jake's hands shook as he activated the galaxy-wide emergency frequency. "This is Captain Jake Morrison of the human vessel Terra's Dawn." He spoke into the microphone, blood running down his face. "We are under attack by the Zephyrian Collective. They came in peace, then murdered our people without warning. They targeted our children first. Another blast, closer this time." Jake could hear alien voices in the corridor outside. "We tried to be peaceful. We offered to share. They refused and chose genocide instead. To anyone who receives this message, know that humanity remembers. We do not forgive. We do not forget." The door burst open. Veltar himself entered with 2 guards, their weapons trained on Jake. "Captain Morrison, still making speeches?" Jake straightened up, ignoring the pain in his chest. "Why? We offered you no threat. Our children did nothing to you. Your children are exactly why you had to die," Veltar said calmly. "We studied your species, remember? Humans who feel love become dangerous when that love is threatened. Better to eliminate the problem before it grows." "You don't understand what you've done," Jake whispered. "There are billions more humans where we came from. When they find out what happened here, they will never know. We will destroy your ship completely. No evidence will remain." Jake smiled through the blood. "You're wrong. I already sent our story across the galaxy. Every human world will hear what you did, and then they'll come for you." Veltar's golden eyes narrowed. "Impossible. We jammed all communications, not the quantum transmitter. It sends messages faster than light through dimensions you probably don't even know exist. Right now, my people are learning that you like to murder children. How do you think they'll react to that?" For the first time, Jake saw uncertainty in the alien commander's face. "You made one mistake, Veltar. You assumed we were like other species you've conquered. But humans are different. We don't calculate costs when someone hurts our family. We just come for you with everything we have." Empty threats from a dying primitive. Jake's smile grew wider. "We'll see. When they come, and they will come, remember that you chose this. You had a chance for peace and you chose war instead." Veltar raised his weapon. "Goodbye, Captain Morrison." "See you in hell," Jake replied. The alien fired and Jake Morrison died. But his words had already traveled across the galaxy, carried by quantum transmissions toward distant human worlds. The collective had won this battle, but they had also signed their own death warrant. When the aliens finished their slaughter, they methodically looted Terra's Dawn. They took human technology, biological samples and cultural artifacts back to their ships. The few survivors were left to die slowly in the damaged sections. As the alien fleet prepared to leave, Veltar looked back at the broken human ship. "Eliminate all traces," he ordered. "I want nothing left but debris." The collective ships opened fire one last time, breaking Terra's Dawn into pieces. Then they departed, confident they had solved the human problem before it could become dangerous. They had no idea how wrong they were. 3 years had passed since Jake Morrison's final transmission reached Earth. The quantum message had traveled faster than any ship could fly, carrying news that changed everything for humanity. When the world leaders heard about Terra's Dawn and the massacre of 50,000 innocent people, including children, something dark awakened in the human spirit. Admiral Ben Hayes stood on the bridge of his flagship, Retribution, watching the twisted wreckage that had once been humanity's greatest achievement. Around him floated pieces of metal and plastic that had been homes, schools, and dreams. His fleet of 12 warships had taken 3 years to reach this place, following Jake Morrison's final coordinates. "Sir, we're detecting life signs," reported his communications officer. "Weak signals, but they're human." Ben felt his heart skip. "How many?" 847 people, sir. They're alive in the sealed sections. The rescue took 6 hours. Ben watched as his people brought survivors aboard. Men and women who had lived for 3 years in the broken remains of their ship. They looked like ghosts, thin and pale, but their eyes burned with something that made Ben's skin crawl. Sam Carter was one of the first rescued. He had been a young engineer on Terra's Dawn, fresh out of college and excited about building cities on a new world. Now he looked older than his years, and when he spoke, his voice was flat and cold. "They came as friends," Sam told Ben during the debriefing. "They ate our food, listened to our music, played with our children. Then they killed everyone." Amy Rodriguez had been a nurse in the ship's medical center. She had watched Katie Walsh die trying to protect wounded patients. Now she studied the medical files they had recovered with a strange intensity. "I know their biology now," she said quietly. "I've had 3 years to study the bodies they left behind. I know how to hurt them." Ben listened to story after story from the survivors. The aliens had been methodical in their cruelty, targeting families first, making parents watch their children die. They had taken trophies and samples, treating human beings like laboratory animals. The Admiral was a career military man who had seen combat before. But this was different. This wasn't war between soldiers. This was the deliberate murder of innocents by creatures who viewed humans as pests to be exterminated. That night, Ben sat alone in his quarters and read the full report his intelligence officers had compiled. The Zephyrian Collective controlled dozens of star systems and had destroyed at least 6 other species over the past 1,000 years. They were efficient killers who eliminated threats before they could become problems. But they had made one crucial error. They had assumed humans were like every other species they had encountered. Ben activated his quantum transmitter and sent a message back to Earth. "Command, this is Admiral Hayes. We have rescued 847 survivors from Terra's Dawn. The evidence confirms everything in Captain Morrison's transmission. The aliens committed deliberate genocide, targeting civilian populations including children." He paused, choosing his next words carefully. "Sir, I'm requesting permission to deviate from our rescue mission. These creatures need to answer for what they've done." "Earth Command, we are no longer a rescue operation. We are now a hunting expedition." The reply came 18 hours later. Earth's president spoke directly to Ben through the quantum link. "Admiral Hayes, the people of Earth have seen the evidence you transmitted. Every nation, every government, every human being knows what happened to our people. You have full authority to take whatever action you deem necessary. Show them what happens when you mistake our kindness for weakness." Ben gathered his senior officers the next morning. These were good people, professionals who had joined the military to protect human colonies and explore space peacefully. But when they saw the recordings from Terra's Dawn, when they heard the survivors' testimonies, something changed in their faces. Commander Nick Foster led the Marines. He was a quiet man who rarely raised his voice, but now his hands shook with controlled rage. "Sir, my teams are ready. Just tell us where to find them." Captain Mary Wells ran intelligence operations. She had always been calm and analytical, but her report on collective military installations was written with precise, cold fury. "We've identified their major bases and supply routes. They've grown complacent over the centuries. They won't expect retaliation. Ben looked around the table at faces he had known for years. These people had changed just like he had. They were still human, but they had become something else as well. They had become instruments of justice. Our mission is simple, Ben told them. We find every installation, every ship, every world that participated in the massacre of Terra's dawn. We make them pay. We make them all pay. The transformation spread through the fleet like wildfire. Engineers who had designed exploration equipment now worked on weapon modifications. Medical officers who had taken oaths to preserve life studied alien biology to find weaknesses. Communications specialists who had once tried to make first contact now intercepted enemy transmissions to plan attacks. Sam Carter threw himself into weapons research with frightening intensity. I helped design Terra's dawn to be peaceful, he told Ben. Now I'm going to design things that are anything but peaceful. Amy Rodriguez requested transfer to the intelligence division. I want to study every piece of alien biology we can find. I want to know exactly how to make them suffer. The survivors from Terra's dawn volunteered for military service to a man. Parents whose children had been murdered asked to join assault teams. Elderly people who could barely walk demanded to help with intelligence gathering. The few children who had survived spoke of nothing but revenge. Ben watched this transformation with mixed feelings. These people were becoming weapons just like his ships and soldiers. But what choice did they have? The aliens had shown no mercy to innocents. They had declared war on humanity's children. 2 weeks after the rescue, Ben's fleet intercepted a collective supply convoy near the edge of their territory. It was a small group of ships carrying food and equipment to an outpost. Under normal circumstances, Ben would have tried to avoid civilian casualties, but these weren't normal circumstances. Open fire, Ben ordered. No survivors. The human ships attacked with precision that surprised even their crews. Years of studying collective technology from the Terra's dawn wreckage had taught them exactly where to hit. The alien ships died without getting off a single shot in return. As the wreckage drifted in space, Ben felt no satisfaction, no joy. Only a cold sense that justice had begun. Send a message to the collective leadership, he told Mary Wells. Tell them that was for the children in Classroom 7 on Terra's dawn. Tell them we have lots more messages to deliver. The hunt had begun. Word of the convoy's destruction spread quickly through collective space. The aliens had grown comfortable in their superiority, secure in their belief that no species could challenge them. The idea that primitives from a distant world could threaten their empire seemed impossible. But Ben Hayes and his people were no longer the peaceful explorers who had left Earth 3 years ago. They had become something the galaxy had never seen before, humans with nothing left to lose and everything to avenge. The collective would learn what Jake Morrison had tried to warn them about. Humans were different from other species. When you threatened their families, when you murdered their children, humans didn't calculate odds or seek diplomatic solutions. They came for you with everything they had, and they never, ever stopped. The collective outpost on Zerion 3 had stood for 200 years, a symbol of alien dominance over this region of space. Its shields could stop any known weapon, its garrison could defeat any fleet, and its location deep within collective territory made it untouchable. The Zephyrian commander who ran the base had never seen combat, because no enemy had ever reached this far into their space. That changed when Admiral Ben Hayes arrived with his hunting fleet. The attack came at dawn, Zerion time. Human ships appeared out of hyperspace like ghosts, their engines running silent and their weapons charged. The collective sensors detected them too late to raise proper defenses. All targets acquired, reported Commander Nick Foster from his assault ship. Beginning surface bombardment. The human weapons were different now, modified by Sam Carter and his team of revenge-driven engineers. Where alien shields expected energy beams, the humans used kinetic projectiles traveling at incredible speed. Where collective armor could deflect plasma bolts, human rounds punched through like paper. The outpost's shields collapsed in minutes. Its defensive towers exploded one by one. The garrison that had never seen real combat found themselves facing an enemy that fought with terrifying efficiency. Nick Foster led the ground assault personally. His Marines moved through the alien base like machines, clearing rooms and corridors with practiced precision. They offered no mercy because they had received none. Every alien they encountered shared the same fate as the children on Terra's dawn. The collective commander tried to surrender when Foster kicked down his door. He held up his hands and spoke in broken human language, begging for his life. "Please, we can negotiate. I have information. I can help you." Foster looked at the alien with cold eyes. "Did you help the 5-year-old girl in Section 12 when she begged for her mother?" The commander's golden eyes widened in confusion. "What girl? I don't understand." "That's the problem," Foster said, raising his weapon. "You never understood." Within 6 hours, the outpost was nothing but smoking ruins. No alien survived to send a warning. The only message left behind was painted on the command center wall in the alien's own language. This was for Terra's dawn. News of Xerion 3's destruction sent shockwaves through collective space. High Command had never imagined that any species could penetrate so deep into their territory. They sent investigation fleets to the site but found only wreckage and that haunting message. Admiral Hayes didn't stop with one outpost. His fleet struck again and again, hitting targets across collective space with surgical precision. Captain Mary Wells had become a master of alien intelligence, predicting their moves and finding their weaknesses before they even knew they had them. "The Kethvar industrial complex on Sigma-7 produces weapons for their fleet," she reported during one briefing. 3,000 workers, minimal defenses. "We can be in and out before their patrol ships arrive." "Do it," Ben ordered without hesitation. The industrial complex died in flames. Every worker, every manager, every guard. The humans took no prisoners and left no survivors. They destroyed the factories and poisoned the ground so nothing could grow there again. The psychological warfare began in earnest. Every attack site received the same message, written in collective languages: "Remember Terra's dawn, remember the children." Captain Paul Green commanded one of the newer ships that had joined Ben's fleet. Earth had been sending reinforcements and supplies, turning the small rescue mission into a full military campaign. But these weren't regular soldiers coming to fight a war. These were volunteers who had heard about the massacre and demanded the chance to make the aliens pay. Paul had lost his own daughter to a mining accident years before. When he heard about the children on Terra's dawn, something broke inside him. He requested transfer to Hayes' command and threw himself into the hunt with single-minded determination. "Admiral, we've intercepted communications about a collective medical facility on Tau Ceti 4, Paul reported. "They're treating wounded from our recent attacks." Ben nodded grimly. "Take your squadron and eliminate it. No survivors." The medical facility was clearly marked with alien symbols for healing and protection. Under normal rules of war, it would be off-limits to attack. But the collective had forfeited any claim to civilized treatment when they murdered human children in their beds. Paul's ship surrounded the facility and opened fire. The alien doctors and nurses inside had time to send one message before they died: "The humans have become monsters." The message was intercepted by Mary Wells's intelligence team. She showed it to Admiral Hayes with a bitter smile. "They're calling us monsters, sir." Ben read the transmission and felt no emotion at all. Good, let them be afraid. Fear is what they should have felt before they touched our children. The collective tried to adapt to human tactics, but every countermeasure they developed became useless within days. Human engineers led by Sam Carter seemed to anticipate every alien response. When the collective used better shields, humans switched to different weapons. When they deployed faster ships, humans found ways to track them through hyperspace. "How are they always one step ahead of us?" demanded High Commander Veltar during an emergency session of the collective leadership. "These primitives shouldn't be able to match our technology." His intelligence officer, a nervous Silmani named Quickthought, delivered a report that chilled the room. "Sir, we've analyzed their attack patterns. The humans aren't trying to conquer territory or capture resources. They're hunting us specifically. Every target they choose has some connection to the Terra's Dawn incident." "Impossible. That was 3 years ago. Surely they can't maintain this level of hatred for so long." "Sir, with respect, we may have underestimated human psychology. Our own studies showed they form powerful emotional bonds with their offspring. We assumed those bonds made them weak. Instead, we may have made them infinitely dangerous." Veltar's golden eyes narrowed. "You're suggesting they're doing all this for revenge?" "Not revenge, sir. Justice. They believe we committed an unforgivable crime, and they won't stop until they've punished everyone responsible." The High Commander stood up, his tall frame trembling with rage. "Then we'll show them what real power looks like. Mobilize the Third Fleet. Find their base of operations and destroy it completely. But the humans had no fixed base. Ben Hayes kept his fleet moving constantly, striking from different directions and disappearing before reinforcements could arrive. They had learned to live in space, turning their ships into mobile homes for families of warriors united by grief and determination. Amy Rodriguez had become the fleet's expert on alien biology. Her medical bay was filled with specimens and research that would have horrified her former self. But the gentle nurse who had served on Terra's Dawn was gone, replaced by someone who studied living beings only to find better ways to kill them. "I've identified a weakness in Zephyrian neural structure," she reported during one briefing. "A specific frequency of sound causes them severe pain and disorientation. We could use it as a weapon." Ben approved the research without question. The time for moral concerns had ended when the first human child died on Terra's Dawn. The Collective's Third Fleet finally caught up with the human raiders near the edge of the Vega system. 200 alien ships surrounded Ben's smaller force, confident they could finally end the threat. "Human vessels. This is Fleet Commander Sektar of the Collective Navy. Surrender immediately and you will be given a quick death." Ben Hayes looked at the overwhelming enemy force and felt no fear, only a cold satisfaction that the hunt was finally coming to a proper battle. "Commander Sektar, this is Admiral Hayes. We have a message from the children of Terra's Dawn." "What message?" Ben smiled grimly as his weapons powered up. "Go to hell." The Battle of Vega lasted 12 hours and ended with the complete destruction of the Collective's Third Fleet. Not a single alien ship escaped to report what had happened. The humans had become something new in this galaxy. Warriors who fought not for conquest or glory, but for the simple, terrible purpose of making evil pay for its crimes. The Collective finally began to understand what they had awakened. 2 years after the Battle of Vega, Admiral Ben Hayes commanded a fleet that barely resembled the small rescue mission he had started with. Over 200 human ships now prowled collective space, their crews swollen with volunteers from Earth and rescued prisoners from alien labor camps. Every ship carried the names of Terra's Dawn's dead painted on their hulls, and every crew member wore a small patch showing a child's toy from the destroyed colony ship. The Collective was crumbling. Their three-species alliance had fractured under pressure they never imagined possible. The Kethavar had lost 6 worlds to human attacks, and were secretly negotiating for separate peace. The Silmani had evacuated their border territories and were building defensive lines deeper in their space. Only the Zephyrians, led by High Commander Veltar, continued to fight with their original arrogance, but even Veltar was beginning to show cracks. "The humans have destroyed another supply depot," reported his aide, a young Zephyrian officer whose hands trembled as he delivered the news. "Tekka Station is gone, sir. They killed everyone and left their usual message." Veltar read the report with growing unease. The humans had hit 17 targets this month alone, always striking where least expected and disappearing before reinforcements arrived. Their intelligence network seemed to know collective movements before the aliens themselves did. "How many ships did they use?" "Only 4, sir. But they fought like—" The aide struggled for words. "Like they wanted to die as long as they could take us with them." This was the part that frightened Veltar most. Collective soldiers fought for glory, for advancement, for their species' dominance. But humans fought for something else entirely. They fought like parents avenging murdered children, which was exactly what they were. Captain Paul Green had become one of Ben Hayes' most effective raiders. His ship, Vengeful Angel, had personally destroyed 8 collective installations and counted over 3,000 alien deaths. Paul kept a detailed log of every enemy killed, not for glory but for accounting. Someone had to keep track of the debt being paid. "Admiral, we've located Veltar's personal flagship," Paul reported during the fleet's weekly briefing. "He's conducting an inspection of the defensive lines around Zephyr Prime." Ben studied the tactical display showing their enemy's homeworld. After 3 years of hunting, they had finally reached the heart of collective space, the world where the orders for Terra's Dawn's destruction had been given. "How many ships in his escort?" 27 warships, all heavy cruisers. "It's a significant force." "Not significant enough," Ben said quietly. "Prepare for attack. Full fleet engagement." The hunt for Veltar became a running battle across 3 star systems. The Zephyrian commander was clever and experienced, but he was fighting an enemy that had spent years learning from every mistake. Human ships struck from multiple directions, Using Sam Carter's latest weapon modifications and Amy Rodriguez's biological warfare research, the collective ships fought bravely, but they were facing warriors who had been forged in grief and tempered by righteous anger. Every human crew member remembered why they were here, remembered the recordings from Terra's dawn, remembered the faces of children who had died for no reason except alien arrogance. Commander Nick Foster led the boarding assault on Veltar's flagship personally. His Marines had become legends of terror among collective forces, soldiers who showed the same mercy their enemies had given to 5-year-old humans. The fighting through the alien ship was brutal, but one-sided. Zephyrian crew members who had never faced humans in close combat discovered that these strange aliens fought with the intensity that bordered on madness. They didn't retreat when wounded. They didn't surrender when outnumbered. They just kept coming. Foster found Veltar in the ship's command center, the High Commander's golden eyes wide with something that might have been fear. "Human," Veltar said in accented English. "I wish to negotiate." "So did Captain Morrison," Foster replied, checking his weapon. "You weren't interested in negotiation then." "That was different. That was military necessity. Your ship posed a potential threat to collective security." Foster's face remained expressionless. "Our ship was full of families looking for a new home. You murdered children in their sleep? Children grow into adults. Adults become warriors. We eliminated a future threat." "Yeah, well, you got that part right." Foster raised his rifle. "We did become warriors." Veltar tried one last argument. "If you kill me, the collective will never surrender. This war will continue forever." "Good," Foster said simply. "We don't want your surrender. We want your extinction." The High Commander died with his golden eyes still wide in disbelief that primitives from a distant star could bring his mighty empire to its knees. With Veltar's death, the collective's resistance collapsed entirely. The Kethvar and Silmani signed separate peace treaties with humanity, agreeing to turn over all records and personnel connected to the Terra's Dawn massacre. Dozens of alien worlds that had supported the genocide found themselves occupied by human forces. But Admiral Hayes was not satisfied with military victory. The debt demanded more than conquest. Captain Mary Wells presented her final intelligence report to the fleet commanders. "We've identified every individual who participated in planning or executing the attack on Terra's Dawn. Every ship captain, every ground commander, every bureaucrat who signed the orders. There are approximately 12,000 names on the list. Where are they now?" Ben asked, scattered across former collective space. "Some have gone into hiding. Others are in refugee camps on neutral worlds. A few have tried to reach distant galaxies." Ben nodded slowly. "Find them all. Every single one. I don't care how long it takes or how far we have to travel. They made this personal when they chose to murder children." The hunt continued for another 5 years. Human ships followed fleeing aliens to distant worlds and hidden colonies. They tracked down war criminals who thought they could disappear among refugee populations. They pursued enemy commanders who had fled to the galaxy's edge. Sam Carter developed new technologies specifically for finding hidden aliens. Amy Rodriguez created biological markers that could identify collective species from genetic samples. The entire human fleet became a vast investigation, machine dedicated to finding every person responsible for Terra's Dawn. They found them all. The last name on Mary Wells's list belonged to a minor Silmani technician named Fast Worker who had helped calibrate the weapons used in the massacre. He had hidden on a primitive world at the galaxy's edge, living quietly as a farmer and hoping humans would forget about him. They didn't forget. Captain Paul Green tracked him down personally, finding the alien working in a field of strange alien crops. Fast Worker saw Paul's ship land and knew immediately why the human had come. "Please," the alien said in broken English. "I was just following orders. I never wanted to hurt anyone." Paul looked at the creature who had helped murder 50,000 innocent people. "Did the children on Terra's Dawn want to hurt anyone?" Fast Worker dropped to his knees. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry for what we did." "So are we," Paul said quietly. Then he did what had to be done. With the last war criminal eliminated, Admiral Hayes gathered his fleet for one final mission. They returned to the coordinates where Terra's Dawn had died, to the empty space that had once held humanity's dreams. A memorial fleet of human ships now patrolled the area constantly, ensuring that no one would ever forget what had happened here. Children from Earth came on school trips to learn about the price of peace and the cost of justice. Ben Hayes stood on his bridge one last time, looking out at the stars where Jake Morrison had made his final speech. The war was over. The debt was paid in full. Every alien who had participated in the massacre was dead, and their entire civilization lay in ruins. "Admiral," asked a young officer who had joined the fleet recently, "was it worth it? All these years of fighting, all the lives lost on both sides?" Ben considered the question carefully. He thought about the children who had died on Terra's dawn, the families who had been torn apart by alien cruelty, the innocents who had suffered simply because they dreamed of a new home among the stars. "Officer, there are some things in this universe that cannot be forgiven," he said finally. "Some crimes that demand justice no matter the cost. The collective chose to make war on our children. We chose to make sure that never happens again." He looked out at the patrol ships carrying their eternal vigil. "Every species in this galaxy now knows what happens when you threaten human families. That knowledge will protect countless innocents in the years to come. So yes, it was worth it." The young officer nodded, though Ben could see he didn't fully understand yet. Perhaps that was for the best. The universe needed people who still believed in peace and diplomacy, but it also needed people who remembered that some evils required absolute justice. Admiral Ben Hayes had become one of those people, forged in the fire of tragedy and tempered by the need to protect the innocent. He and his fleet would continue their patrol, watching the galaxy and ensuring that no one would ever again mistake humanity's capacity for love as weakness. The children of Terra's dawn were gone, but they were not forgotten. Their memory lived on in the ships that guarded the spaceways and the humans who would never again allow evil to go unpunished.